That's right after the pandemic hit. Things changed, and I decided I want to be able to help people by speaking full
Good.
time. And that's what I'm doing. And it's been an incredible, fulfilling experience. I'm sure you're experiencing something similar, right?
I'm enjoying, I stopped being a GM 3 years ago. I've done a variety of things and doing board jobs and that sort of thing.
I want to make sure that our listeners are also understanding. So phenomenal background. So let me just highlight a few of your career highlights. General Manager, Regional Director, Dorchester Collection. So you managed the Beverly Hills Hotel and the Hotel Bel-Air. At one point, you were also the GM of the New York Palace. You spent 2 decades with Ritz-Carlton, including Vice President and Area General Manager. You helped the luxury brand achieve 2 Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Awards, which is incredible. And you've done some amazing things. You've been recognized Independent Hotelier of the World by Hotels Magazine, noted for your street MBA, recognized Southern California's 25 most influential citizens by Angelino. And then under your leadership, you have earned 128 global accolades, including Forbes 5-star, AAA 5-diamond Michelin stars, and it goes on and on. So for our listeners, and it's interesting to hear about your background, but I really want to get into the nitty-gritty of you, Ed, and what our listeners can learn from you. Yes, I want them to buy the book. I want them to understand your stories, but what makes you such an incredible leader?
Thank you for sharing. Yes, it's a great outline of what I've done in my career. 128 different teams, Bart. I didn't do it alone. Definition.
Understood. That was the response that I was expecting from you, and you have credit cards, and that's one of your amazing qualities. But you have done some amazing things. You continue to do some amazing things.
Bart, I started our family diner as a young child, and we had a family business, and not understanding hospitality. My mom and dad, of course, we did it for our livelihood, and family business. 3 other siblings, a sister and 2 brothers, and so we ran the family business. As I grew into that, my dad said, like, "What do you want to do?" And then, born Canadian, just like Simon Cooper, and went to a hospitality school in Windsor, Ontario. And as I did that, I went and enjoyed that for a couple of years. And my first job out of the gate was working at Chateau Lake Louise in Alberta in the kitchen as a sous chef, because the school taught you how to cook. So it was an interesting journey as my dad, my mom, and I would say that my dad was really chairman of the board, my personal board of directors, and my mom was vice chairman, and it depended on who, because we all obviously enjoy our parents and we listen to them at different times for different reasons. But my mom was the one that created the sense of hospitality in the house. And she always said, you can never ever be too nice to people, because the nicer you are, the more positive the environment, creates that sense of place and so on. Where my dad was probably a little more stern.
What was the family business in?
It was a diner. It was a corner diner in Canada, Windsor. And we owned that for many years. The hospitality thing started in my youth.
Yeah. Did you like it? Growing up, and I read your book, and we were going to make sure that our listeners are aware of it. Honing the Human Edge. Thank you very much. I got the advanced copy, and then I got another hard copy. So I'm so grateful. My wife took the hard copy immediately. So I've been walking around with the...
I'll send you another.
But curious, and there's a lot of stories that I want to get to understand and have our listeners get to know a bit more. Did you enjoy the family business?
I enjoyed it to such a degree that, as a lot of teenagers and so on in family households, everybody has to pick up. You have to pick something to do. And so at that time, I was a little confused. I wasn't really sure of what my purpose and where my freedoms need to be. And understanding of purpose is a very powerful thing. Purpose is elevating your significance. And how did my dad reinforce that with confidence? Because he had more confidence in me than I had in myself, as did my mom. So after I did the whole school thing to formalize what it is that I needed to understand about hospitality, and primarily I wanted to go to school to become a chef. And that's why I worked in the kitchen for the first 5 years of my career. And then you get to a certain point and you say, geez, there's no money here. So You want to do something a little bit bigger and better. So as I did this job out west, my very first leadership job, actually, sous chef in the kitchen of Chateau Lake Louise, Len Scott was the executive chef, and he tapped me on the shoulder one day. He says, I'm going to have you as our sous chef. You're going to run the night shift. We had about 100 people on the team between the culinary and the servers and so forth. And I'm not sure if you've ever expedited in a kitchen before, but expediting when it's really crazy in a resort hotel is something, because you got to do a lot of juggling. So I enjoyed it. And to really get down to the nitty gritty of it all, you always want to use a little bit of toughness. There's always going to be mental toughness. There's going to be intelligent toughness. There's going to be street toughness. There's a lot of things that you juggle in hospitality. And if you really put a definition to hospitality, a lot of people have their own definition of what is real hospitality. And it's kindness to strangers and the love of strangers, and how do you want to best embrace what it is that happens when you meet all these new people all the time. Stories on top of stories. I left Canada to go to the US and cross the border, and a friend of mine that worked at the Royal York became a general manager of the Palace Hotel, and he recruited me. So I left Four Seasons hotels after working for Fairmont at that time and got my green card. And then working at that point in time at the Palace, I worked for, and some people might not remember the Queen of Mead, but Leona Helmsley. And I got my green card through her. And that was a tough battle in itself, only because you never really understand your grit and everything else that happens when you are going to be living in New York.
And I know this is a very high gain type of question. What about your leadership? What is it about you, Edward Mady, that has earned you all of these wonderful things?
When I sit with anyone and they want to say, I don't know what's next for me. And then everyone has the same headline over their forehead. It's called growth and adding value. How do you grow and how do you help add value to someone's life? When Horst tapped me on the shoulder to come and work for Ritz-Carlton, he basically looked at me and he said, anyone that can work for Leona for 5 years has to work for me. And when I said, thank you very much, Horst, because he was looking for the grit. He was looking for the ability to have a leader that could create rhythm. So what is rhythm with RC? It's the culture, what Horst would create when it came to the two Baldrige Awards. And the book and the spine of the book is written in a manner that supports everything I personally learned with Baldrige. And my 14 words that I use of remember me, recognize me, anticipate my needs, give me what I want on time. It talks to the basics of hospitality. For example, if it's February 14th and you decide to give your significant other something on February 15th, meaning Valentine's Day on February 14th, and you forgot. So you didn't remember, you didn't recognize, you didn't anticipate, and you didn't do it on time. And that's what you have to do with your people. You have to try to gather as much of their desire to follow you. And how do you create desire? Onboarding and integrating people into the jobs that you ask them to be responsible for. Culture is a tacit social order of an organization. How do you best look at culture and turn standards into instincts? And those instincts have to be second nature to the people that you put on the team. So Horst was very driven with what it is as co-founder of Ritz-Carlton. Horst selected me to be a GM at 36. I knew I was not ready for.
Sure.
In New York City, Union Hotel. And so I learned on the job. Somebody has to give you a break. Somebody has to give you a chance. But while they give you a break and while they give you a chance, they have to show you what it is that needs to get done in order to take the luxury product to another level. So when I start looking at onboarding, when I start looking at integration, a company needs to spend around 10% of the hours that you work in a year. So you work 2,080 hours a year, 200 plus hours have to be spent on education, training, and learning. And what is it that you're going to be taught? You're going to be taught what the expectation is of what is the job. And so you have to explain to people, what is the job? And then you want to start looking at the human edge. That's why when I started to write the book, understanding, honing the human edge. Everybody has a different edge. And if I were to look at two major things under the growth and adding value headline and looking at balance, people, I would put it into this category. There's always going to be room for improvement, which is incremental. And then there's going to be potential for improvement, which is breakthrough. A lot of people will not understand breakthrough until you have them understand how strong they are. So you select people through strength. And that's one of the tools that we use when we work at Brits. And whether you're looking at Talent Plus or whether you're looking at Gallup Strength Finder, every one of us have a strength. How do you take the strength, double down, get everybody to match each other's strength, and then build some kind of social desire that you can create a culture that represents what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Okay. I'm going to ask you just to pause right there. And I know it's difficult to talk about yourself. And
Yes.
it's amazing, Edward, because you keep on deferring to the team and the team and the team and the team. You are the one that wrote the book.
Yes.
You are my honored guest for today.
Thank you.
Understanding that you grew up in the family business. It was a diner. You worked hard. You learned things from your dad. You learned hospitality from your mother. You became a sous chef. You've progressed. And then all of a sudden at 36 years old, someone, Horst Schulze, sees something in you that perhaps you did not see yourself, yet you have succeeded, Edward Mady. You are continuing to succeed. I'm going to ask you just one thing.
Yes.
One thing, and it's hard for you. Look inside of you. What does Horst Schulze say about you? Was it Joe Torres? What does he say about you? What makes you a great leader? Because then our listeners are going to say, you know what, out of all the things, here's an International Hotelier of the Year. Even if I'm not in hospitality business, if I can focus on this one trait, because I learned it from Edward Mady and Bart Berkey, what is one characteristic that you believe helps you become or be a great leader? If we don't want to talk about you, just one characteristic.
So if I were to look at the basic characteristics of any great leader, I'm just going to look at integrity, strong communication skills, listening. You have to be a loud listener. And there are many words, but I would say cracking the code of someone's strength that they don't know they have.
Love it. Cracking the code. Horst Schulze was able to crack your code, Edward Mady.
Yes.
Simon Cooper was able to help crack my code. There are so many different leaders that you list in this book with a crack our code. So let's just think about that for a second. Great leaders, 128 different properties, massive accomplishments. If you can crack the code of an individual to get to see their grit, to hire great people, to inspire the right people, to have them embrace the culture, to help you create the culture, all of the things that you want. And you talk about mission and vision and realignment and things. So the number one thing probably is you are leading people. That's what leadership is. So if you can crack the code of individuals to understand what they're good at and how to align them, then that will help you. That will propel and raise the team. Were you always good at cracking that code?
Yes.
Great.
I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, please.
I'll tell you why. There are moments in time, whether it be yourself, Bart, or somebody else, it really doesn't matter. Out of the 128 teams, you always had turnover. It was never the same team. But these are 128 different times over my whole career. So talent is about potential. Strength is about performance. Not everyone can understand their talent to convert that because it's hidden. They tap them and they say, did you ever think about, and I'm going to get into a couple of stories here to validate that because it's very interesting. I'm going to talk to the owner of Ritz-Carlton San Francisco that took me to an event, and Meredith Tennant, she took me to an event. And the event, and I have to make sure I don't mess this up because I have it written here in front of me. The acronym is the word CHEFS. And it was a Summertini program. It's an annual fundraiser that they used to have. And CHEFS stands for Conquering Homelessness Through Employment in Food Services.
Wow.
This was a culinary training program that helps homeless adults from the street find employment in food industry. So I go to this event, and there's a couple hundred people there. And as the MC for the event announces this lady by the name of Jenna. And she studied culinary arts and hospitality studies and so on. She'd worked her tail off in order to be recognized as the prominent winner that particular year. So she gets up to stage. And it's an interesting thing because going back to my earlier years with my mom, my dad, horse, and so on, everyone used to say, the most important thing you'll ever own is your name. And so this gal gets up on stage and she's standing there. They got the mic in front of her. And what she does, she stands there and she starts to cry and doesn't say a word. So she's standing up there, maybe 15 seconds, and everybody's wondering, geez. And so she, first thing out of her mouth, she says something along the lines, I'm going to ad lib, of course. She says, I am so proud to be up here because when you're homeless, no one ever uses your name. No one ever asks you your name, you're homeless. And then something along the lines of, you never know what it's like to beg until you have to. When you help people grow and add value, they should never have to beg. You have to be able to create a desire with the talent that they have and the strength that they have that's hidden. And somehow, some way, they wake up one day and they have their own epiphany. And then once you get that going, and so, of course, Jenna, she's up on stage and they give her the award and so forth. And she continues to cry. Emotionally moved because she was on the street, homeless. No one knew her name. And then she won this award. And the community obviously taught her the skill and trade of cooking. So she didn't know she had the talent. She didn't know she had the strength. She didn't know she had the potential. So desire is one of those very interesting things that happen when somebody puts their mind to it.
Yeah.
And when you onboard and select someone brand new for your team, you have to create that desire. And so just as an example of a story. So here I am in a room with so many people, and just pretend there's 15 people that we selected through a selection process. And we're going through onboarding orientation. And I stand in front of the class, and then I ask everybody to say their name individually. So you go around, where did you work before? And you get a little bit of a handle, and then everybody hears everybody else where they worked. And then I say, pause. I said, can everyone please say your name out loud? And then it's strange. And it's Edward Mady. And then everybody says their name out loud. And then I would say, can you please say your name? And then say the Ritz-Carlton, San Francisco. So I go, Edward Mady, Ritz-Carlton, San Francisco. And so everybody says that. And then I says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, today you're going to go through a name change because your good name is going to join our good name. And we're going to take our culture and we're going to energize ourselves, who we represent and what we represent as a luxury hotel. So desire starts when you start to have everyone understand how important their name is. And so I think it was the Dalai Lama that said this, the definition of desire is when you make a contract with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want.
Wow.
And so
desire, grit, it all aligns.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to insert one little quick story, if I may.
Please.
We're talking about the value of your name, which also relates to integrity.
Yes.
Which relates to grit, which relates to value. There are so many different elements. And even just, I know we hit record early on this conversation. I wanted to make sure that if you prefer Edward Mady, that I'm going to call you Edward, or I'm going to call you Ed, whatever your preference is. What's been lovely, Edward, is that you have referenced my name probably 5 or 6 times. This is the first time I believe that we're meeting. I've known your name for many years and vice versa, but I believe this is the first time. So you just even saying, Bart, let me share with you a story. Oh my gosh, you are making me feel seen. So I love this story that you were talking about, that chef event. And you said Jenna, her name is Jenna, won the award. And that's important, right? Even if Jenna's not in the industry, we need to recognize Jenna. I was in New York not that long ago. And I was waiting on a really big contract, a great speaking contract that would take me international for 3 months in a row. Wow. It was so great. And I just got done presenting to another keynote speech, and I'm getting ready to jump on the train to head back to DC. And Edward, I get notification while I'm in the Uber heading to the train station that they did not select me. And I was sad and I was upset. And as I'm walking to the train station, there is a homeless gentleman. And he has a sign, and the sign said, I might as well be invisible. That's what it is. I might as well, not I need money, I need food, I need help. No, I might as well be invisible. I will never forget this. I happen to have just a few dollars in my pocket. I don't typically carry cash, and I travel with gratitude stones. I give gratitude stones, and our listeners know this.
Nice. Love it.
Just to recognize people. I got the whole batch right behind me here.
Love it. Yeah. Great, Bart.
I gave the gentleman the stone first, just because I wanted to see his reaction. And his reaction was priceless. He took it, he put it up against his heart. And I told him why I'm giving him this. And he said, what's your name? I said, my name is Bart. What's your name? And my name was Kue. I think it's like Kue. And we had a conversation just like you and I, Edward, are having a conversation right now. He wasn't high. He wasn't drunk. He just wanted to be seen. And then I gave him the few extra dollars. He was even reluctant to accept the $2.
Wow.
The gratitude stone and being seen meant so much more to him. And in that moment, I wasn't worried about the contract that I didn't get because good things were going to happen to me later.
The humanity part came out of you.
That's it. Yes. And so the story that you shared, homeless people, if we see people that need something, if we can recognize people by their name, if we can see the good that perhaps they don't see in themselves, cracking the code as you had shared makes you a great leader. Because you care.
Bart, it's cool that you ran into this individual and you took a look and instinctually you felt you needed to say something, do something, which is what you did. The thing that happens in business, especially luxury and the hospitality, the high-end tier and so forth, is there's a lot of people that know how to create desire, but not a problem with that. You have to convert desire into momentum. And when you take desire, convert it into momentum, and what Horst did and what many other people that I worked with over the years, you have to create a movement. And you can't have a movement unless you have momentum. And you can't have momentum unless you have desire. And then somehow, some way, it has to start somewhere. Everyone, doesn't matter who's on the team, everybody has something to offer because everyone has talent. They might not recognize that talent as a strength. How do you shuffle the deck, the puzzle together? And if you have someone that started a job, say, for example, in front desk, and if you work the front desk, you have to have pretty good exactness skills and so on. But they just didn't do a great job. And they said, I think you're going to do really well in sales. Have you ever thought about going into sales? And then, no, not really. I said, do you know what that would be? And so you go through the whole process. So it's like taking a puzzle out of the box that has 500 pieces, turn the puzzle upside down and try to put it together upside down. And then you don't know what the picture is because you are looking on the shaded side where there's not a picture. A team will not understand where they fit in the puzzle until they understand how they can contribute with their talent and their strength.
Yeah.
Strength has a pretty simple definition, and I'll give it to you. I learned it over the years. Strength is defined as what you do well, but true strength is what you do well and enjoy. It's not where the puck is in hockey, it's where the puck is going. So you got to figure out where somebody wants to go. And I wrap it up with the growth and adding value concept of this is what happens when you deposit with people, because you know what? It's a two-way street. They deposit back with me because they give you feedback on a timely basis. They tell you things when you least expect it.
Yeah.
And that's done through the open door process.
Edward, I received this question recently from a client. I would love to hear your response.
Please.
They were saying that they appreciate service. They believe in service. They believe that is their talent and their strength. It's their purpose. It's their passion. The question that this young lady had was, what do I do when not everyone else cares as much as me? What advice would you give to a person like that?
It's an interesting viewpoint. Maybe everyone else does care. She might not recognize it. But the key here is you have to have table stakes. And when you have a culture, and a culture turns standards into instincts, and then a culture should be the compass. And then you start to understand that the strongest cultures are often the softest forces. And you have to be able to have her understand that service can get sloppy depending on who was training who. We learned in RC, service has a beginning, a middle, and an end. What portion of the service is the observer making? What is it that she believes service is really going to be? So you break it really into the guest experience, because you have personalization, and customization, and maybe if she's a server, or she works in the front desk, or works in housekeeping, or it could be a manager, it could be running a restaurant. All the time, when you're trying to understand service, you have to break it down, and you can't break down a 24-hour stay with one transaction. A 24-hour stay has, if you really want to market, a 24-hour stay has around 950 process checkpoints. Out of the 950 process checkpoints, 75% are functional, and the other 25% are of purpose. And it's a purpose, and let's describe purpose. A room attendant just doesn't clean a room. A room attendant creates a sleep experience, but turn down the appropriate side of the bed. Most hotels turn the bed down by the phone, and then this person doesn't sleep on that side of the bed, they want to sleep on the other side of the bed. You have to know that. You have to learn that. You have to be able to do enough research to say that this customer, Mr. Smith, likes to sleep on the right side of the bed, not the left side, but we always turn down the left side. Service is one of those things that if you're in an environment, everyone needs to go through finishing school on what is service, because it evolves all the time based on where the business model is. And if everyone's learning together, and then her comment about service can be dissected, because you're not trying to criticize. You're not trying to criticize your peer because she might have a viewpoint. So she could be, really gets down to of not criticizing, but critiquing. What are you critiquing? That's objective. Criticizing is subjective.
Yeah, that's great. So what element, so that statement, everyone else doesn't seem to care as much as me. How would you define care? What does care mean to you? Can you give us specific examples of what you have seen? Because as you said, there's over 900 different elements of a guest stay. So what aspect of it? I want to switch gears, if I may, Ed, if you're okay with time.
Oh yeah, I got it all the time.
You work harder than most people. At one point, you failed the third grade, and you mentioned it's in your book.
Yes, I did.
In your father, Baba, am I saying that?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
He was disappointed in you.
Yes.
Do you remember, can you share with our listeners, what was the conversation like, and how did you feel when he shared that he was disappointed with you?
Basically he knew I had the potential, and he knew I was lazy. And I just took my eye off the ball. And he wanted me to try harder, but I got distracted. And I want to talk to that story afterwards. Other things that everybody fails at sooner or later, because it's not always their fault. It was my grade 4 teacher, because she lived 3 doors down from where I used to live at that point in time. She says, "You're going to do much better this year because you were distracted." And specifically remember that we moved that year.
Okay.
We moved houses several blocks away, and I'm not even sure what it was. When you move as a kid, you get disorientated and stuff, not looking at excuses. But anyhow, the point is that the following year, the grade 4 teacher told me that you're going to do better. And I did. And she tutored me in ways that were different than what I might have had happen to me the prior. And of course, the skates were on after that, and I never looked back.
Yeah. So the teacher, as a leader, helped crack the code for you. She saw potential. She also gave you encouragement. Your father, leadership lessons, was very direct in you. He saw in you that there was more potential. You were being distracted and you were being lazy. At that point, you never stopped working hard. And look at all the accolades. Terrific. What is the nickname that he then gave to you?
Shebu.
Say it one more time. Shayboob.
Shayboob. Yeah.
And I guess the definition of that in Arabic is awesome kid.
Yeah. There was
So,
the word love there and so
yeah,
forth. Yeah. But awesome kid is.
yes, awesome kid. And it was just that, I don't want to say just that, and I'm snapping fingers, turned around like at a third grader, but let's imagine being a third grader again. I was probably lazy in third grade, not straight A's, but I wasn't reaching my potential. You were surrounded then, you had the influence of your father, you had the influence of the teacher, and then you decided that you are not going to stop working hard. Are you still working hard today, Edward Mady?
Yeah, I love work. I love work. I love sharing what it is that I have learned. That's why I wrote the book. I wanted to be able to have people understand what it's like to enjoy the different things that I have learned. And if you can share with others, humanistic leadership, honing the human edge, and what it is that comes up. People say to me all the time, tell me a story.
Yes.
And I said, well, what kind of a story? He said, just tell me a story. He says, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. This is one that has a funny side to it. So there's a call to the front desk. And the customer says, my pizza won't warm up. And then the front desk clerk looks at the other one and says, what do you mean your pizza won't? So, okay, Mr. Jones, I'll be right up. And of course, there's bantering going back and forth. There's no microwave in that room. And so the desk clerk goes upstairs to try to understand what's wrong with why the pizza won't warm up.
Yeah.
And of course, the guest put the pizza in the wall safe. And thinking that it was a microwave.
Yeah.
Obviously not from this country. And you go in and you have to use your hospitality skills without laughing and saying, oh, geez, let me just order a fresh pizza for you and order a microwave. And we're going to have to change out the safe because it got a little sticky. But you start looking at hospitality and you start looking at mistakes that most people would make. You're not going to laugh at the guest. You're going to softly and gingerly work around it. And of course, it's a story that you never forget because that's probably once in a lifetime kind of story. But when you're talking about hospitality, you're talking about different things, it's important that you apply working hard in different ways. So that's working hard because you do not want to laugh. You don't want to, but you say to yourself, what did I learn today? When you go home and you say, what did you learn today? Let me tell you a story about this guest that decided to put their pizza in the wall safe.
Yeah. And I think what a great story, first of all, Edward. And then also the element of you loving what you do. That's why you work so hard, because you love what you do. It is hospitality, you being a former general manager, area vice president, all of those lovely titles that you have. Were you able to build in integration with family? I'm trying purposely not to use the word balance, but were you able to integrate family life, personal life into what you were doing, or were you working all the time anyway?
I was working a lot. And I think when you start understanding what is work, you're supposed to have a little bit of fun. You're supposed to have a little bit of joy and make sure that you just don't always find yourself working. I like to golf. I like to take the dogs for a walk. I like to go on vacation. What are the things that we all do? What are the things that we all do when we're not on the job? But yeah, I don't think you can ever really stop working because that's why they call it a job. Why work, but it can be fun. And telling a pizza story is one thing, but at the same time, what are the other stories that you and I have enjoyed over the years? And there are very many.
Also, the other question for you, Edward, I get a lot of people coming up to me after I'm done speaking on stage, and I'm speaking on positive things, how to do what most people don't do, the name of the company, the name of the podcast, the name of my book. I talk about having a growth mindset, thinking from now to next. I talk a lot about kindness, that it's more than just being nice. I have people come up to me afterwards and they ask me, and I'm curious, I'm going to just ask you, what advice would you have for leaders to lead during difficult times? And when I say difficult times, when they are uncertain of the economy, they are uncertain of the future, they are worried What advice would you give to them just from the heart?
When you start looking at crises, and what's the number one mistake that people make in a crisis? That's the question. Answer, they don't know that they're in one. And you have to be able to define that. And how do you define that? And the thing that's important is understanding pressure. Everybody looks at pressure differently. And some people retreat into systems, they retreat into policies, they retreat into, quite frankly, they panic. And you shouldn't panic. When I wrote Honing the Human Edge, it was for people to lead them through pressure, not just to survive it, but to make sure you face pressure personally and professionally. And you want to learn the difference. And this is how you show up. And you have to show up for others. And when you show up for others, you've got to sit on the floor in the middle of the fire with them, and they see that you're present. And as long as you're present, and they say you're in because you as a leader, you didn't hide in your office. So being present is extremely important. And that's clearly where you also help everybody else find balance in what it is that they're doing, because the moment that they don't feel panic, the moment that they feel that they're not in a crisis, good things happen.
Is it okay to say, I don't know the answer and I'm a little concerned as well? Is it okay as a leader to say that?
If you say to them that I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to go and find them and let me get back to you, and you put a timeline to it, I don't know how many different crises I've faced over my career. And then the answer is probably more than most. What's always approaching and never arrives.
Say that one more time.
What's always approaching and never arrives. And the answer is tomorrow.
Wow. One more time.
What's always approaching and never arrives.
Yeah.
And the answer is tomorrow. Because people worry about tomorrow so often that they forget about today.
So be present. That's what you said. Sit in the middle of the fire with them.
Yes.
Listen to them. If you don't know all the answers, tell them, you know what? I don't know all the answers, but I'm confident. I'm confident that together we can figure out. I'm confident of our culture that we can figure out. I'm confident that things are going, and you even have a few pages with, I don't know if it's called a sigmoid curve, but the ups and down curve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
confidence, separation.
Phases of change. Yeah. Phases of change.
So there's always going to be downs and there's always going to be
ups.
Yeah.
Humanistic leadership and leading with heart is extremely important. And people need to know humans dealing with humans is that's our industry. And you need to understand that your people always come first. And that's why you have to know their names. And when you know their names and you can address them by name and so on. I walked in a room once and was doing a room inspection, and the room attendant says, "Who are you?" I forgot to introduce myself. And then I introduced myself. He says, "I've been working here 10 years. I just started the job. I've been working here 10 years. I've never met the general manager." It's as simple as putting an orchestra together. And you know what an orchestra is like when you're all tuning up before the session starts. What is it, D? I can't remember what I don't play any musical instruments, but it all sounds kind of rambled. Everything sounds rambled until the orchestra leader comes up and then he does his thing. And then all of a sudden, music.
And I'm also thinking about that, Edward. An orchestra is also reading the playbook. They're reading the manual. They are reading the culture together. And they have a director that is helping them, but they're all reading from the same playbook, which aligns perfectly with owning the human edge.
Bart, you made a point. I went to see the dean at UNLV, Dean Cardenas, and he holds up the book like this. And he goes like this. He says, "You know what my favorite word on this title is?" And I said, "What's that, Dean?" He said, "The word edge."
Wow.
He likes edge.
Yeah. You know what my favorite word is?
What's that?
2 words, Edward Mady.
Thank you. You're darling.
And that's what this conversation has been all about. I have 2 last questions, but I want to summarize what we learned. Yet leadership is not easy. You have to love it. You have to embrace. You learn the element of hospitality from your mother, but your father also kept you accountable to be able to not be lazy, to be the awesome kid, to be the Shabbat. And as you went through your career, people were able to crack the nut on your talent. They were able to see Edward Mady can do this. Yes, he's 36 years old, but let's put him into this role. He has the grit. he has the understanding, he has the humanistic approach to be able to lead people, to identify their strengths and their talents, to work with them, to assign and use their name and have their name be Bart Berkey. Most people don't. Edward Mady, author, honing the human edge, to put all of those things together to move forward. And now we are so grateful, Edward, that you wrote this book, because you are sharing lessons learned, not only from getting so many accolades, International Hotelier of the Year, but you're teaching people through this book how to manage crisis, how to be prepared, how to communicate, how to interview individuals. What are the solutions? How do you deal with social media? There's so many different things in here that are so helpful, so incredibly helpful. So 2 last questions, I promise.
Yes.
From a humanistic leadership perspective, treating people fairly and kindly, do you ever think a humanistic leader needs to make an employee feel bad?
No, the answer is no, because when I look at moments and you have to let somebody go. So let's define let somebody go, either fire, layoff, downsize, business model change, and so forth. How do you let someone down softly, and how do you use humanistic leadership in order to have them know? The moment that someone says you're fired or whatever it is, and working with Leona, that happened many a time. I had to find myself dealing with a scenario with her. The hard part is have them get on with their life. So come up with solutions. So listen, this job that you have right now, it's going to go away. Unfortunately, your performance wasn't there. Unfortunately, we're downsizing, but I'm going to help you find a job. So what is it that you and I can work on together? And this is not the last conversation we're going to have. They're either going to get annoyed as heck and want to throw something at you, or they're going to leave the room and just say, okay, let me go home and think about this, because a lot of people can't process some of the shock treatment that goes on. So it always goes in 2 parts when you want to separate. First, you break the news, and then you want to have them regroup. And then regrouping is, and I have a story there too.
Please.
I had an owner tell me once, I don't want to work with this person, this senior director of sales and marketing. I didn't want to work with them anymore, because in management agreements, there's 3 positions that they usually have a say on. And so I had to find this person a home or have them disappear. And we used performance as a criteria. 3 years later, this person's name shows up for a job. Obviously, the person had other work after that. And so I get a phone call from an asset manager, and he says, I want to hire this person. And I says, great guy. I think you're not going to go wrong. And you just need to be able to arm wrestle with this person, because he doesn't take a lot of grief. And so that was it. And then so 3 months after that, I get a phone call from the actual candidate that I had to let go. And he calls me and he says, I didn't know that you were the reference for me to get this job. And I said, yes. He says, because the asset manager told me in the middle of the meeting, if Ed didn't give you a reference, you wouldn't be in this room. But he also told me that you don't take a lot of lip when you're right. So he was like confrontational with an asset manager. So you can't do that all the time. You know that from the sales world. But point is that you always want to help people. You always want to you want to reinforce what it is. Just because it didn't fit that one moment that you have to let somebody go doesn't mean you can't find a formula to have somebody get on with their life.
That's fair. Someone else can crack the code. And there was that humanistic leadership approach, Edward Mady. So sorry this didn't work out, but I want to be able to help you. And you did help that person. That is the human element. That is what has earned you so many accolades.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And if you could please fill in the blank for the last question. The name of the podcast is Most People Don't, but you do. You certainly do. How would you fill in the blank? Most people don't blank.
Most people don't know how to help people get on with their lives if they get fired.
Fantastic.
Most people do not know how it feels to not have the identity on the street. If you're on the street and you see a homeless, and I liked your story, what you said earlier, what I've done learning from Jenna when she was up on stage, I'll walk up to a homeless, and generally with a lot of ladies on the street that are homeless and so on. I'll say, my name is Edward. What is yours? And then you give your name, and then you give them the money, and you wish them well, and then you walk away.
Yeah.
Now, in this particular case, the reality thing, the most important thing you'll ever own is your name. Because a job didn't work out and you said you're going to fire somebody, it doesn't mean that they don't have redeeming qualities. That's why growth and adding value is the headline for all of us. How do we best help in a humanistic leadership platform? How do you help people grow and add value to their lives so they can, in fact, know that the most important thing they'll ever own is their name?
Yeah, phenomenal. And Ed, it has taken us an hour and 21 seconds to come up with, for me, to come up with this conclusion. Edward Mady, you have shared with me and our listeners the value of the name, the value of a name, the value of your name that identifies you. You are unique. You are special. You might not be perfect at every single job. When you work with the right leader that can crack the code through your ability and your skill and your talents and your strengths and all those other words that you had shared, and you can be successful. Then you can enjoy what you do. Then you can add value to the world. It's all about your name. Edward Mady, I had never thought about a name from that perspective, but you have certainly opened up my eyes. Closing comments to you, sir.
Curiosity is oil for the brain. And if you can create enough curiosity with someone, you can pull out of them the thing that is locked up when you want to crack their code. And you want to crack, when you want to crack that code with them, they don't want to do it alone. They always want to do it with someone. And so if you can help somebody grow and add value in a particular way with their curiosity, then you've given back.
Yeah, that's the authenticity element of being curious. It's not being curious just because you want something from someone. It's going to allow you to get ahead. Being curious because you truly want to know and you truly want to be able to help someone. Amazing conversation, Edward Mady. Thank you. I want to reference a couple of other things. If individuals to contact Edward Mady, Edward, and then MDY is his last name. You can find him on LinkedIn. In addition, and I just learned from Parole, and we need to give a shout out to Parole Shaw, who has been helping with the marketing communications. We both know her from our Ritz-Carlton days.
Yes.
It's one of the best in the world with communicating and marketing and public relations. So shout out to her, but she just sent me, even though she's out of town or out of the country, she sent me congratulations on being an Amazon bestseller already. I have goosebumps for you. The name of the book, right? Owning the Human Edge by Edward Mady. Phenomenal. Get it on Amazon.com.
Thanks, Bart. Parole and also Bonnie Crail. She also worked for Ritz-Carlton for many. I'm not sure if Bonnie. Parole has done an outstanding job with myself as we were doing our little march. Happiness is about serving others. And you really look at hospitality. You and I will wake up on any given day. It doesn't really matter what stage of life we're at. Purpose creates new desires with new expectations. And when you're working with anyone in our industry, everybody has a new expectation, whether it be the guest, because we didn't talk about the guest a tremendous amount, but the customer is really the one that we rally around ourselves to give them the ultimate experience. But I think this experience I'm personally having with you is very enjoyable. I appreciate you having me on your program and look forward to having a cocktail or so and invite a dinner one of these days.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. We do come to California quite often. We have relatives in the Brentwood and Santa Monica area.
Oh, okay. That's not around the corner for me. Yeah, good.
Yeah, we'll definitely let you know. And also when individuals read the book, you were very kind with your acknowledgments, Edward. And when I looked through the names, there are so many that I know, so many people that I know that also, we referenced this a little bit in the beginning. Some are famous, right? Joe Torre, Derek Peter, Joseph Michelli, but then we have our mutual friends, Brian Goldbrands.
Yes.
He was on the show, right? Simon Cooper, God rest his soul, was on the show. Horst Schultz was on the show. So phenomenal people that have influenced hospitality and have influenced you. They have helped you crack that code. And we are honored to have you on the show. My suggestion for everyone listening, get the takeaways. We always include the show notes. think about 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can do to become a better humanistic leader, have more empathy, crack the code with people, find your passion, and then pass this on. Buy Edward's book. He doesn't need you to buy the book, but it would help you to get the book, and then pass on this episode. We have some sponsors coming up with our episode soon, but right now it's no cost. So please, if you like the conversations, like it, add a comment, subscribe, do all those lovely things that I don't know exactly what they're supposed to do, but I hear subscribe and comment. I think that's a good thing. And go out and buy Edward Mady's book, Honing the Human Edge.
I wanted to make a comment right at the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
You're going to see on a page a heartfelt thank you to my best friend, Dr. Anna Brandt. This book will not be possible if I did not use her as the best ever in helping me focus on what is honing the human edge. And this is why I dedicated a whole page and a poem to her.
Okay. May I speak candidly?
Of course. Yeah. So what would you like to know?
Every time that I was trying to get into you were crediting the team.
Yes.
Okay. Which is okay, but I want our listeners to know you. I don't want them to know your team. In all of your accolades, you have to be with me, my friend. All of your accolades take care of themselves. Okay. That's table stakes for coming into here. Great. My listeners will buy your book, but what my listeners won't be able to do is have the conversation about, Edward, when did you know you were going to be a great leader? So let me just ask a couple of very personal things for the last 10 more minutes.
Of course.
Yeah. My goal is to have people love you.
Thank you.
And they will love you if you allow me to unravel a little bit of you. As soon as they like you, they're going to buy your book and they're going to learn all of this.
So thank you for the thing that I have always been under the radar. And Aaron Sorkin, he's a playwright, and he defines a good story is to have intention and then obstacle, intention and then obstacle.
Yeah.
When you focus on others, the good comes back to you, because I've learned that being humble is a significant ingredient. Humility is a significant ingredient. You can't be a general manager unless you have a big ego. You can't be a significant leader unless you have some kind of an ego. So in order to support myself, my fuel, my going from gasoline to electric, going from analog to digital, is the better that I reinforce others, that's my fuel.
Is that hard to do? Because
it's so hard to do. And the reason why it's so hard to do, because you're not deflecting on what it is that you represent. What you're doing is you're taking whatever strength I have and you want to recycle, you want to re-energize others. Okay. And the more I re-energize others, that's where I feel better. That's my fuel.
Okay.
And when people,
keep going. Yes.
So when I have that happening, I wake up in the morning and I say, what else can I do? When Frank Sinatra, this was written somewhere, when Frank Sinatra had a conversation with Wayne Newton, and he said 3 things, and I say this all the time. How can I help? What can I do? Who can I call? When you're sitting in your office and somebody knocks on your door and they say, my son is going to get married, and they tell you a good story. And then the next hour, somebody else walks in and says, oh, I have some bad news. My pet cat has cancer. And then the next person walks in. And so you turn into a rabbi, you turn into a priest, you turn into almost everything and anything. And so learning these 3 phrases of how can I help, what can I do, and who can I call? And so Edward Mady, as the person, I have been bred and fed from my early years through the diner and everything else that I've done of how to support humanistic leadership.
Amazing.
So myself, single, living in West Hollywood, have 2 dogs, enjoy the beach, enjoy going for walks, enjoy going to a Yankee game. I find myself loving the weather here. There are a lot of different things that a person like myself would do in California. Easy enough, I suppose, for you to really answer the question that you're asking about Edward Mady. I've had probably the most pronounced point of feedback from those 128 different teams that I've led through all those awards. And again, I did it with many people, but the moment that somebody left the team and went on to another job, sometimes they were successful, sometimes they're unsuccessful. And then the common thread comment would be, you never know what it's like to work for Edward Mady until you don't.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And that really says it all. And let me just share some honest things back with you as well. I was probably more anxious to talk to you than I was to talk to the president chairman of the board of Cisco Food Distribution. I was probably more nervous to talk to you than I was for Chef Duff Goldman, who's on the Food Network and a celebrity worldwide. I was probably more nervous, and I'll tell you why, Ed, because when I've known your name forever. Of course, you're with I've known your name through Hotels Mag and Hotels Online and Jeff Weinstein and all the other people that you know. But my book doesn't have a foreword from Joseph Michelli. My book doesn't have a foreword by Kimberly Rath. My book doesn't have a foreword from Hall of Famer Joe Torre. I don't reference Derek Jeter. And so I'm doing research, a couple of weeks in preparation for this. And I'm seeing this picture with Edward Mady with all of these great celebrities and Beverly Hills hotels and this luxury hotel and this luxury hotel. And my honest thought was, I'm hoping he's as nice as I'm reading about him here, because my perception, just very honestly, was here is going to be a person that is going to be wildly egotistical, that I'm not going to have anything in common about. International Hotelier of the Year. Wow, big deal. And quite the opposite has happened. And I've known of your reputation. I've never had a chance to work with you. I knew that you're a good guy, but I was intimidated by the pictures that I saw, by the people that you know, by the people that you are lucky to hang out with. I was intimidated. Now, full circle, to see who you are, it's okay to have an ego, because you need to have an ego, and you have an ego because you care. And the most unique thing I think about you, Edward Mady, is you have a massive ego in a good way. Having a massive ego is not bad, but you are able to combine that with, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Who can I call? That combination, and I want to see if we can include some of this or all of this.
Please.
Combination, Edward Mady, for a great leader, huge amounts of ego means you got grit. You work you work harder than anyone else. You have passion, you have pride, you have spirit, you have grit. You love what you do. Ego. Combine that with, I want to be nice when I'm firing you. I want to help you. I want to introduce anyone to anybody. What can I do for you? I want to sit in the middle of the fire. Oh my goodness, Edward Mady, you are freaking amazing. And I am even more honored to know you. And please take that in.
Bart, Bart, I love you. The reality is the 7 deadly sins.
Yes.
When you look at the 7 deadly sins, the quality of life is minus envy, because envy you get nothing out of. Everything else you get something out of, all those other 6 deadly sins. Envy is one of those things you got to throw out the window. We all obviously gravitate towards that because we're all human beings, but the quality of life is not understood until you're living in the moment for the moment. When my dad said no one should ever outwork you, that's when I flunked. He says the moment that somebody outworks you, but you look at Samuel Jackson, the movie star, his father told him, you say yes to every movie part that anybody ever calls you for until you can't work anymore. So you get so tired. But when you want to keep supporting and reinforcing yourself, my fuel, my energy comes from others.
It's so special. It is so special.
Horace taught us this. And what are the things that you and I do? And clearly you have a still strong sales background, you have HR background, you have a variety of things that that you bring to the dance. But in the end, the moment that you can do the simplest thing about keeping the customer you have, get them to spend more, find new ones, and then of course efficiencies. You want to make sure you're doing in a manner that you're making some money. what else is there to do to teach others? And at the same time, keep your own job, because the first person that's always on the chopping block is the guy that's running the candy store.
Yeah, yeah. And take it one step farther. It's not only how to treat customers, just in general, humanistic approach, humanistic leadership. And I'm going to change it. Humanistic leadership applies leading people in a business type of environment. But humanistic approach, I believe it is treating people just like we've been discussing for the last hour, 20 minutes. Humanistic approach, humanity, treating people nice, not needing anything from them. And that's so unique these days, Edward. And that's why I was excited to get you on this show. I'm even more energized by our conversation. And I want to be able to do some more with you somehow.
We can do more. In the very end, in hospitality, there is nothing more personal than taking care of someone's sleep. That's as personal as it gets.
Yes.
And AI will never replace that, because you still have to be able to get your people to understand taking care of someone's sleep. And when you can do that and they keep coming back, and raise the prices, it doesn't really matter. They always want to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And how do you personalize and customize a guest experience? No differently than how you personalize and customize an employee experience. And so you got to have the ability to break and crack the code.
Yeah. And crack the code. And I think bigger, Edward, I'm thinking even bigger now. Crack the code on humanity, right? Take the time to hold open the door for someone. Be kind. Be kind, not honk the horn when someone cuts you off. It's what I'm learning from you, Edward, and I know our listeners are as well. It is how to apply a humanistic approach to everything that you do. You are amazing. And
so are you.
You're a human person, okay? Well done, and thank you. What an honor.
High five.
High five, you got it. All right, we'll meet you soon in person.
Love to. Look forward.
All right, thanks again, Edward. I appreciate it, man. Well done.
Well, okay. Thank you. Bye.